Welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is an event I've been waiting for eagerly for some time now. Very, very excited to bring you something that we have been putting together for quite a long time alongside the Realisation Group. My name's Toby Babb, and I'm hugely thrilled to bring you today a panel of experts who I think have done incredible things over the last couple of years. Hosting FinTech Focus TV, as I have over the course of the last 18 months or so through the pandemic, has been an experience where I think I've learned more from speaking to some amazing people than I have done at any other stage of my 21 years in this industry. Part of that has been talking to companies and leaders who have defied the odds and turned the negative of the pandemic into a positive and done some amazing things for their customers. And over that time, there are 6 or 7 traits that we've found that appear over and over again. And we wanted to bring you a panel of people to really go through and talk through the recent Financial Markets Insights piece as brought to you by the Realisation Group, where we are talking to a number of different people who are basically absolutely showing the best of those traits within it. So this panel are 4 companies who I've got tremendous respect for, huge excitement about, and really excited to bring them to you. So we will introduce each of them to you, but Remonda, Thomas, Liam and Philip, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to do a brief round of introductions. Remonda, would you kick us off just by telling us a little bit about yourself and the company, please?
Yeah, a pleasure. Thank you very much for having us here today, Toby. I'm Remonda Kirketerp-Møller, the CEO and founder of Muinmos. We founded the company in 2012. It's a RegTech in financial services. And I myself have been in financial services for a little bit over 20 years now. And it's a huge passion of mine as well. Thank you.
You've weathered those 20 years a lot better than I have. Well done. Well done on that. Thomas, next over to you.
Sure. I'm Tom Mccue. I'm the CEO at FINBOURNE Technology. At FINBOURNE, we build data platforms for asset managers, hedge funds, asset servicers, and pretty much anyone who wants to answer 2 fairly simple questions, which is what do I own and how much is it worth?
There it is, as eloquent as ever. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
Liam, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. And again, likewise, thanks for setting this up. I think it looks like quite an interesting discussion today. So I'm Liam Huxley. I'm the CEO and founder of Cassini. My background was running technology sort of dev teams within banks before then entering the fintech and entrepreneurial world a good 15 or 16 years ago. And Cassini specifically, we were founded to primarily help buy-side firms adjust to new regulations and the new sort of operating model for derivatives trading, and primarily to do 3 things. 1, bring transparency into their front and middle office. Secondly, to manage and reduce cost of carry of trade portfolios. And thirdly, to reduce their liquidity and collateral risks.
Fantastic. It's been great to see such a thriving story of what you've been doing in the business over the last year or so as well, and before. Last but no means least, Philip, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
Very good indeed, very good indeed. If you could introduce yourself and Solidatus, please.
Sure, so not that different from Liam. Liam, I spent most of my working life in banks, building up technology teams. I'm very lucky now to be part of founder at Solidatus with my friend and colleague Philip Dutton, and we have built a piece of software that we hope will bring transparency and intellectual property retention to data-rich and regulated companies. And I think our tagline is, we will keep your bosses out of jail.
That's never a bad thing to have either. So
depends on the boss.
Very true, very true.
Or the job you want to keep, I suppose.
So 4 companies with extraordinary stories, and we're going to pick that out a little bit more as we go through. There's plenty to get through over the course of the next half hour or so, and then what we'll do is ask a couple of final questions and then throw it over to the Q&A. The panelists have told me they have no fear about whatever comes our way. So 7 habits of highly successful fintech leaders. No slight nod there to Stephen Covey and his 7 habits, but these are 4 companies that I've been looking at for the last 2 years with absolute awe. It's been an exceptional performance of massive headcount growth, massive logo growth, massive revenue growth. And that's against a backdrop of massive uncertainty at the same sort of time. And it's been really inspiring to talk to everyone and hear their journeys and read about it in the Financial Technologist magazine and the Financial Markets Insights paper from the Realisation Group as well. Those 7 themes come through, and we'll look at every single area, but it's again things that I've heard time and time again as replicable habits that can happen in any business that seem common sense, but common practice is quite often the area where it falls down. One of the things that we've seen, and I know that you guys have absolutely epitomised, is the ability to capitalise on market opportunity. Everyone's, I think, always has been, particularly at the start of this, been very nervous to talk about the fact that this has been a time where opportunities present themselves, but good businesses are able to look at issues and be able to provide solutions to it. Remonda, I'm going to start with you. The market has created problems for people across the industry, across the world, both socially, politically, and in terms of the working world. But I love and have always loved the theory of taking a negative and turning it into a positive, and I know that's what you and the team have done. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on capitalising on market opportunity.
Well, for us, actually, Toby, we founded the company, our RegTech, in 2012. And if you look back in 2012, RegTech wasn't even a concept in the marketplace. And in fact, a lot of people in those days thought we were either crazy or just had a vision that no one really could foresee at that time. Of course, little did we know in terms of, for example, COVID, but the reality in those days, in particular for me, there was absolutely no doubt that the market could not continue in the state it was. Back office and financial institutions was very, very, if you like, little invested in terms of technology. I absolutely love technology. I started my early days, my career in Saxo Bank, and Saxo Bank, they're pioneers in the technological sense, which actually really drove me to realize as a lawyer with my background that why is it we as lawyers don't really leverage on technology to bring actually the client really fast forward and enable them to comply. So I definitely would say that the technology element was definitely, we were in the early stage. The market was for sure not ready. We did not give up, not on the dream, not on the vision, not on the execution. We were insanely disciplined as a team to say, you know what, the market will need it. And there's no shred of doubt when you look at it now in terms of RegTech solutions and how they're being actually, if you like, embraced in the market. It goes without saying there's no way that financial institutions today could survive without these type of solutions. And our focus areas on the client onboarding, the complexity is enormous. Globally, it's enormous. The regulation cross-border is enormous. And if anyone fools you to say we can do it using humans, it's just virtually impossible. That much we at least know. So absolutely, I mean, for us, it's actually severe dedication to the foundation and the belief that this is definitely something that we will see that the sector, whether it's the financial sector or other sectors, they will need it. So yes, we've had the doors bashed in our face many times, Toby, but we didn't give up. We continued working really, really hard. The technology foundation was ongoing. Nothing stopped us really. And now we actually can capitalize on it because the market is ready, and we're very proud of that.
That's fantastic. And capitalizing on that marketplace is something I know, Philip, that you've been keen to look at as well. And that's not just effectively saying, all right, your product's there and this is what it is, and wait for the doors to open. You guys have done incredibly well in scaling the company in extraordinary lengths over the last 18 months or so. Tell us a little bit about your take on capitalizing on the opportunities that come to you.
Well, I'm probably going to spin one of my strap lines at the moment. So, you know, the meme that grabbed me most over the last 18 months, I think, has been the one about what's revolutionized your business or digitized your business or brought your business further forward in technology. Was it the CIO, the CTO, the CDO, the chief executive, or COVID-19? And I think that for me is, you know, it epitomizes where we are. We're kind of in a bit of a war. You know, technology advances best when you've got real purpose and real drive. When a lot of red tape to a degree is thrown out of the window, you know, we see it in conflict all the time. But I think the real thing for real market opportunity for me has been the absolutely free flowing acceptance that the old ways are ended, and actually it's time to start disrupting. And you know, we are in the most disrupted of times. Whether we think we're coming to the end of it or not, the workplace, I don't think, will ever be quite the same again. There's going to be a forever acceptance that there has to be a better way of moving data, better transparency around data, a lot of the things that have been allowed to happen because of the pandemic, you don't want to row them all back, but they're going to be a lot of scrutiny about stuff. And the opportunity for us, I think we built a company based on intellectual property sharing, transparency, at the root of it all, the demonstration of control. And that is something that, if we're to really consolidate the gains, the technology advancements, and then like the acceptance that data, for example, it's the answer to lots of problems if we can use it properly. If we're to consolidate that, we have to have a good technology, as Remonda said. We can't go back to a situation where there's paper trail and a person behind every single decision. We can't go back to a place where it's a people-centric decision all over the place. Being able to demonstrate that we can iterate forward in a more automatic, transparent and accountable way has been the opportunity for us. And we were just in the right place at the right time with enough of a grip on the market that we got a lot of approaches about it. And being able to actually, capitalize on those approaches was our sweet spot this year. And we were very lucky to be able to do that. And that's led to a lot of great things for us. And it's been hard work, jolly hard work. But holding on to that now, I think for all we're worth as an industry, those gains for all of us is so important.
Having spoken to you at all hours of the morning after long shifts in Asia and all that sort of stuff as well, I know exactly how much hard work you've put in to make that luck as well. So I think that
not just me as well.
That sort of ability for the team there to have those opportunities, but actually to have the confidence then and the backing and the structure to be able to do them has been a real high point of it. The second thing that I want to talk about is this ability, and this is a constant theme. I did an episode of FinTech Focus this morning with another company where we were talking about the importance of listening to customers and how that's had an impact on product and development, and how agile companies have been over the course of the last couple of years. No more so than Cassini. Liam, I think this is something we've spoken about at length before, and one of the things that is very, I know you're very passionate about, is that ability to listen to customers, to solve actual problems, and to provide real-time solutions to their ever changing issues that they're having at the moment. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts there and how you've made that a success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just before I maybe think about that, I think just going to the capitalizing on the opportunity thought as well. There are different ways that you can kind of interpret that kind of secret of success, if you like it. It's not just sort of capitalizing on the opportunity the market presents you in terms of needs and use cases, but it's also on different ways you can deliver solutions to the market. So one of the other things that's been very notable, I think, certainly in our world, I'm sure in probably everyone else's in the last 2, 3, 4 years, is the kind of shift to acceptance of externally hosted solutions and using the cloud in different ways. We offer solutions which are both SaaS, but also single tenant, dedicated hosting, where it can be location specific, etc. But that allows, that creates an opportunity to allow you to deliver a flexible solution in a new way that's cost efficient, quicker to get on board with, etc. So it's kind of that principle of looking at opportunity and understanding what opportunities the market is presenting you applies in lots of different dimensions of building a good fintech business, I think. And it ties into this theme about listening. I mean, if you step back, finance is a complex world and constantly changing. And so is technology. Technology is changing at light speed. I mean, I used to code and build solutions, and now I don't understand half of what my developers are talking about every day. And the guys who've been here 3 years don't understand what the new guys are doing. It's a very rapidly changing world. Yeah. So you can't rest on your laurels, or stand on your previous set of understanding and principles and models and expect that to carry you forward. You have to be looking at what's happening and listening to primarily your customers, but market participants, partners, etc. And you're as much listening to what they're actually saying, which is, can you help me do this? Can you help me solve that? They'll be asking you direct questions, but also listening to the things they're not saying explicitly. What are the implied questions? What are the challenges that are distracting them? What maybe is taking their focus off the project that you're working with them on? And are there ways that threads back into your world? And that creates an opportunity to kind of figure out new opportunities. Again, cycling back to the previous point, figure out a new opportunity you can then potentially capitalize on. But it also helps you figure out ways that you can provide more value and benefit to your customers. Because if you're tuned into what they're saying and they're not saying, and listening and thinking and then responding with that, active listening, which is a cliche people use, right? Bringing back new solutions that helps them. It helps strengthen and deepen the relationship you have with the customer, and it helps you figure out new value propositions and use cases for your system, which you can then deploy and hopefully helps grow the business as a whole. I mean, in our case, the obvious sort of scenario was last year. COVID hit, everyone's life changes, everyone has to sort of start to change their operational model, what resources are where, et cetera, but it also had this impact of really speaking the market, creating a lot of volatility. What situations like that do is they clarify the situation. Suddenly the world becomes black and white. All these kind of difficult problems and projects and change projects people have, some of those drop away and you focus on the things that really matter. Tuning in during that period and very actively engaging with our customers and our prospects, firms that we hadn't quite signed up yet, we were working with, brought out of the woodwork a bunch of specific use cases in terms of analytic scenarios and stress models that really would help these guys manage and reduce the impact of that volatility. And we were able to, for those firms that have signed up already, respond quickly, roll out or help them use our API and our analytics layers to deliver those solutions. And then that, of course, creates great examples for you to take back into the business, take back into the sales process and the sort of marketing, and it uses examples to future potential clients. So it's a virtuous circle. You actually help deliver value to your client, which is the most important thing. But you help over the short to medium term, then actually strengthen your product and your business.
I think that listening to what they're not saying has been a very interesting theme of everyone I've been speaking to as well. And it's it always takes me back to the Henry Ford quote of faster horses and such like. And what better a link to bring us in the Henry Ford of fintech in Tom. Tom, tell me about a little bit of your thoughts of customer listening, because FINBOURNE's been incredible at looking at problems and actually providing real-time value for that as well.
I always find this a very complex thing, right? Because as you end up with sort of halfway between what Liam said in terms of, actively listening to customers and making sure you're engaged in the conversation and figuring out how that feeds back into your product, and what Remonda said in terms of like, you have to have a vision, build it, and the market will eventually come to you. And somewhere in the middle of that is the sweet spot, right? So you need to listen to your customers and your prospects, but only insofar as they have something that you can help them with, right? You can't be just a company that's driven by, somebody asked for this today, somebody asked for something else tomorrow. It needs to align with what you're trying to do, and there needs to be shared value in it, right? So the way we look at it is, Simon Sinek wrote a very good book, The Infinite Games, right? You have to have a target. It has to outlast you at the company. It has to be a collective goal that you and your customers or partners in and have the same belief in. And it has to be all about that reputation first when you deal with those customers. And I think if you can manage to find a sweet spot in there for you and your company to grow, then that's great. But I think the problems that people run into is when they think they're bigger than that, right? Or they have they're operating in an ecosystem that isn't fostering them. Right back to the first question, there's a piece of advice somebody gave me a few years ago that at the time I was like, that's nonsense. Markets make companies and people destroy them, and it's true, right? Like, markets are making our companies right now, and it's up to us to safeguard them and make sure that we're participating in a way that's sustainable and win-win for everyone.
I love that. I think that's a fascinating way of looking at it, and it sort of absolutely ties in with my view of people being, the center of everything that moves companies and businesses further forward. And I think that's it's very, very interesting for me, this sort of this customer piece and listening to customers. And I think all of the companies on here I know have done a lot of that over the course of the last year. But it's adding value through the customer journey. I spoke to a lot of people this time last year who were still saying, right, we've almost stopped selling. And I think that the state of sales almost changed demonstrably at that sort of stage, where it became about adding value, and marketing came a lot tighter to sales teams, and people were looking there to say, right, my customers are going through difficult times at the moment. I need to look at how I can add more value to that. Philip, tell us a little bit about you and the team and how you've managed to really add value to your customers throughout their journey so far.
Well, this is a question that's, I guess, got several parts to its answer. one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves on is that when you start using our software, we can show you insight really quickly, and being able to show someone something during a demo about their own organization has always been kind of, it's kind of pleasing. It can sometimes disrupt us. You can get someone worried about something a bit too early. You show them something that's not quite the way that they imagine. But on the flip side, if you're doing it at a time of high stress and you can give someone insight really quickly, actually that's really good, and it does cement a relationship. Being able to show immediate value, where we're in an industry that kind of has a 4-year horizon on value, traditionally has a 4-year horizon on value, has been, I think, part of the pieces that shows the disruption that's around and available within the industry right now. People are people, and at the end of the day, we've all been through this really disrupted time, and being able to give someone confidence about the fact that they're picking the right tool for the job, I think is really very important. Being able to, at a distance, get your message over. So to all the branding stuff, I'm sure it's a similar story all around. The ones that the industries, or the players in the industries that have been really successful, are the ones that have been able to reach out and talk to people without actually going to meet them. There's no trade fairs. There's highly successful things like this that your fintech series, for example. But that isn't the same as was going on a Department for International Trade, trade mission abroad, and going and meeting customers, and they come to you that way. You've had to get your message over in a way that's not only authentic and believable, but it's speaking to what the customer wants up front. And then you can't just say things at the moment and then not be able to produce the goods. So being able to get over it and adding value right from the very beginning, from the proofs of concept, from the pilots, into production, and being able to do a whole bunch of things, which is making their lives easier. It's not just about your product, it's about how easy is your product to deploy. Can you speak to all the parts of the organization which are, and certainly for the early part of the last 18 months, quite dysfunctional? People were learning how to work from home in a lot of cases. It might have been easier for some of us to just pick up our laptops and move off. But actually, a lot of our customers were going through massive internal changes and making decisions about stuff at the same time. So being able to give them comfort that they were picking the right product and that it was going to continue to provide value all the way through the implementation, and making it easy for them, really, for me, it has been absolutely key. If you were going to be difficult, you aren't going to make it in the last year and a half. No way. If you were going to say a lot of things that were going to take 3 years when they were in an emergency, you weren't going to survive. And I think that's the same for all of the success stories I've heard. And your series has got to have been, you will have uncovered things like this all the way around. It's the ones that were providing almost immediate relief, as well as, continuing to work with the customer through that period of uncertainty, and then emerging the other side as the stronger partnership, the ones that will have done the best, I think.
Absolutely. And Liam, I can see you nodding through that as well. Enhance your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think B2B, if you think about it, we're technology companies working in a specific domain area, delivering solutions that hopefully improve our customers' businesses and lives, right? Being in that world is quite a different thing to being in, say, B2C, where you've got a much more sort of broader and diverse market. It's within our world, it's much more about a long-term business anyway. It's about becoming part of your client's world and infrastructure. A really successful business will be someone that they expect to be able to rely on and turn to, not where they just pay a license fee and sign a click-through agreement and then don't speak to you for 5 years. And that's where this sort of idea of adding value comes in. It's multidimensional. It's partly about, as we were saying, sort of adding value at each step of your relationship with them. But it's much more about this idea of as their process changes. So quite often, I'm sure we all find the same thing. You start off engaging with a customer. They've got an initial sort of project and use case, but that's the start of a journey for them. They're involved on a longer term change program, or they're expecting to be able to adapt to future regulations or requirements. And becoming part of that, so that, again, time back into listening, time back into, this idea of sort of innovating as you go along with them, so you can add value as they change, and they can kind of rely on you to be part of their solution at each step of the journey. That I think is really key to creating a very sticky and long-term relationship, and to trivialize it, upsell opportunities and abilities to grow and expand your kind of commercial relationship. In our world, it also has another dimension which won't necessarily apply to every business, but because where Cassini sits in our client organizations, we interact with and have solutions for each of the functional silos from front, middle, and back office. So it's another way of thinking about, adding value across the customer journey, maybe rather than sort of through it. And those are groups and technology silos that quite often don't speak to each other, aren't well integrated. They have different lenses on the world, different views of how to think about information. So one of the other things that we focus on is important is creating transparency and a seamless sort of connectivity across those layers that helps bring value from what all the back office groups are doing into the front office and the middle office. So it's another way of thinking about this idea of adding value across that customer journey. And I just say, going back to the idea about, should you be listening to your customers and innovating based on that, or should you be leading the way, the Henry Ford idea of, creating something that the customer hasn't thought of yet. And I think the answer is you have to be both. Cassini, we certainly, the mission statement we wrote down at the start was a product that no one had thought of implementing, bringing this connectivity across front and back, and took a while, as Remonda was saying, took a while for the market to come to us. So, you have to innovate and set out a new concept, a new way of thinking about a certain problem area. But at the same time, Henry Ford or Steve Jobs' iPhone didn't have any idea when they released their first products how that thing would be used, how it would evolve, what users would actually want to do with it. Yeah. So you have to listen to customers and interact and refine your solution set as you go forward.
That's where this iterative process of product development comes into play.
It's really bringing the sort of juxtaposition of those two things together, and that's not always. Some companies fall on one side or the other, and they fall away, they fail. So you have to kind of navigate that road.
We've mentioned as well a little bit before about the significance of people, and alongside that, Simon Sinek was mentioned, whose original works was all about start with why and purpose. One of my big passions is engaging teams and seeing companies there who've really worked really hard to get the very best out of their teams in this scenario. Ramonda, I know you're very passionate about this as well. Talk to us about how driving purpose throughout the business and maximising your team in a very difficult thing, and looking after your team has been central to your growth as well.
Yeah. I would say at Muinmos, our foundation built is through our amazing team. And I'm a huge fan of Jim Collins, where he talks a lot about this topic, actually. And in particular, if you look at some of his chapters in Good to Great and similar books, there's a lot about, as a leader in these organizations, you have to make the tough decisions. There definitely, I'm a strong believer, and there are people on the right bus, and there are some that need to get off that bus. And to be frank with you, one thing we've done incredibly well at Muinmos is exactly that. And that doesn't mean the ones that are off, they're bad people. They're just the wrong people in that journey. And some of them, they're amazing candidates in the market in general. But of course, you have to really drive that purpose, and you have to make sure that everyone in the journey at the company believes in it, and they're truly passionate about it as well. We're very, very focused and disciplined about what are we good at? What is Muinmos? What makes us different? What makes us great? What makes us special? And that's the area we really, really, truly heavily focus on. And of course, yes, Muinmos was built on my dream to actually revolutionize the entire sector, cleanse data, pull data in sets, and figure out how to actually push it out to the client. In our case, it's the financial sector, and to create that triangular setup where we're actually protecting the underlying investors, making sure our clients, the financial institutions, they're doing their job, and they're doing their job well, and at the same time allowing the regulators to regulate. and to continue order in the market. And of course, that means that we have to really, really be focused on every single, if you like, part in that journey. We can't ignore one and deliver for the other. It is a triangle, and we have to make sure it's connected all the time. And of course, as a team, it's hard work. Absolutely, it's hard work. You start these companies in the belief in a couple of years you're done in terms of amazing product. You'll never be done. These companies will never be done, and that's what's amazing about them, because we're constantly evolving, constantly bringing new things to the market, constantly listening to each other, constantly listening to our clients, to pretty much everyone in the equation. And of course, that's hard work. And if you can't live that part in Muinmos, it's simply not the journey for you. But we love it. We absolutely love it. We know we're changing the world. We know we're changing the way the market sees this. But of course, with that comes a lot of hard work. And our team are exceptionally disciplined at believing that this is the future. And we are actually paving the future. And of course, that comes with definitely a lot of hard work and commitment from all sides to make sure that the vision, we see it in the same way. And the company actually, Muinmos, Somnium, backwards is dream. And the idea behind the company, actually, when we founded it wasn't a dream for me. It's a dream for the company, it's a dream for everyone that comes into Muinmos. What's your dream? What can you add to Muinmos to make it one of the best companies in the world, in the area that we are in? And that's pretty much the foundation of how the company was built, and will continue to grow from here onwards.
There's been a smile sort of appearing across my face as you were talking there, because I love that, and it's so often a theme that I'm getting talking to. I know I've spoken to Tom, to Liam, to Phil on the show before, about that same sort of passion for what you guys are doing, and you can see it from talking to the team and people in that business. Just that sort of unbelievable passion for doing things there, to wanting to be the best in the world at what you're doing, to wanting to do things that change the shape of the industry you're in, and creating those cool solutions. I think essential not only to keeping your best talent, to attracting it as well. And those companies, I think, who've really worked hard to engage and look after and listen to their teams as much as listen to their clients, have done really well with that too.